Welcome to the podcast. My name is Monroe. I'm with Derek the Deal Smith. First time he's been on the pod. We've worked together. I like to think of him as a close friend as well. He is a marketing director. He's an entrepreneur. He's a real estate investor, real estate agent. This man does it all. So the honor's all mine to have you here, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Of course. I did do a little bit of research, even though I know you pretty well and I've worked with you. We're going to get all into what you're doing, what you're about, what you have to offer, what 2025 looks like. I want to get into the future and the present, but I kind of want to explore the past a little bit. Talk to me about little Derek the Deal Smith, little D. I want to know, where did you grow up? What were your parents like? What was school like? I do want to get into that.
Right on. Yeah, I didn't know we were going there.
Yeah,
but
let's go there.
I'll explore it a little bit with you. I grew up around here in Wells Branch, just north of Austin.
You've been an Austin guy since the beginning, huh?
I was born elsewhere, but
Okay.
grew up here. So
Cool.
For all intents and purposes, yeah, I'm an Austin guy.
That's sweet.
Parents tried their best. I think maybe we'll explore that a little bit later. It's we always will see the faults in others, and if you really look at it from far away enough, they were correcting other faults from their parents, right? So while they're like, I'm not going to be like this and I'm going to do this because my parents did or didn't, even though they corrected those, now there's other things that are caught. So I try not to hold too much against my parents, but especially my dad, definitely from a different time. We'll say that.
So that sounds like it wasn't rainbows and sunshine.
Not always, no.
Really? What did your parents do?
My dad has a mixed background, but he was away on business pretty often.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I've met your mother.
Yeah.
She's delightful.
Pause. Just making sure. Yeah, it was at a family birthday
It was,
party.
of course. And she seemed like such a great grandma.
Yeah. No, and she's great. Honestly, the rock that got me through the other stuff that maybe wasn't so pretty.
Do you want to dive into what that kind of stuff was? Or is that leave it in the past, leave the past alone?
I mean, I will go into specifics, but I think naturally men can have a lot of pent up resentment, anger, potentially even guilt or dissatisfaction with the way that things turn out, and it can get misplaced or not communicated well. And when you're a child, maybe you don't really understand the frustration.
Mm-hmm.
All you see is that maybe they're mad at you, or you take it as they don't love you. But it's not always the case. It's that they're trying their best, they're fighting their own internal battles. And I didn't really see that until Dad passed away, and then I grew up, and then I'm like, oh shit, he was trying.
How old were you? Sorry about his passing. How old were you when he passed?
It was pretty recent. I was 20. It was on my 26th birthday.
How many birthdays have you had?
Since then,
Total.
I'm 29.
I can't believe you're younger than me, bro. Because you're really wise, and you've come so far in the business, and I look up to you as an entrepreneur, truly.
I appreciate it.
And you're younger than me. You're a fucking kid. What? So he recently passed. I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was too early.
I mean, no one's ever ready for anything.
Yeah.
Right? You're never ready to have kids. You're never ready to launch the business, launch the podcast.
Yeah.
Lose a parent.
Did
It all just happens.
Did it take his passing to put into perspective, his role as a parent in your life, or had you been, reading about self-development or going to therapy or something where you kind of rationalized it when he was still with us?
I was late to the party.
Okay.
I mean, there were times when, I could make sense of it and, forgive. And then there were times when I was human and, even though I will be on my own thinking, oh, everything's fine, he tried his best, it's nothing but love. Then I get around him, still a dick. So it comes out differently. And that's why I'm able now to see that, the the battles that were going on were all internal. It's not like it really barely had anything to do with me specifically.
Yeah, it's not
Be-
personal.
right. And because I too am like, I want to express these things. And then you get to that moment and maybe something triggers a past thought or something, and it just doesn't come across right. Like communicating your intent versus your feeling in the moment is something I wasn't really able to do well until after.
Break that down for me, because that's really abstract. Like, I'm super into what you're talking about, but it almost went over my head a little bit. I'm a little slow. So you're talking about like his intent
Yeah.
as a father,
So
and how you choose to interpret those intentions now as an adult in hindsight kind of reframes what the process was.
yeah, and like even from his side of like, I'm sure he intended or ideally would want to communicate certain things. Then you get into feelings, subconscious, just your um, neural pathways that are already dug in, and it doesn't always come out what you would actually want to say. So it's like you can know better and do worse at the same time, which I think all humans deal with. Like even breaking it down to the most simple business sense, you can know what you're supposed to say on the phone, if you're like cold calling or something, and then you get on the phone and the anxiety kicks in, or they tell you to fuck off, or like you haven't had enough coffee, or whatever the case is, like you go off script.
Yeah.
So it's just the human nature of us all, I guess.
You seem like so well balanced and
Thank you.
really conscientious, and that's been consistent. Like, I've gone back and seen videos of you on other platforms, and you're such a thoughtful, deep guy. Do not take this the wrong way, because this is like the reputation amongst us creatives. I don't know if you share the sentiment, but real estate agents are kind of like the bros in high school, right? Like that's the
Sometimes.
reputation, and that goes for women too. Like, but the more I meet you guys, like the more go-getter, thoughtful, deep you really are. It's not, you guys kind of subvert that expectation of like they're just like the jocks in high school that now are real estate bros.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where did that come from?
I I mean, I think it's now because we're able to, I guess, capture more time. Like for example, even right now, because we have at least an hour on this podcast, like we can explore these ideas and talk through them. But historically, like you have 10 seconds in front of your audience and
Mm,
you think you know what you're supposed to say.
mm,
Like, I can sell your house fast,
mm,
right?
mm.
And you got the suit and tie and whatever. And it's like, you you have to put on this mask that you think is the mask that your audience wants to see to give you the job. And as real estate agents specifically, like it's tough. There was a stat that came out. I think it was like 73% of agents last year sold zero houses.
Do you have siblings?
Hmm.
How many?
I have a brother on my mom's side, and then on my dad's side, there's Evan, my brother, two sisters, and then there are rumors of several other kids that my dad had
How do you
out
feel
there.
about that?
When I first found out, I was younger and I was pissed off, and then now, as an adult, I see my dad in a much different light now.
Yeah, I got siblings from my father's side. My father and mother split really when I was young, and they're half siblings. And I try to reach out and connect and be close, but we didn't grow up together, so it's forced. It's difficult.
Yeah.
The siblings that you grew up with, you guys close?
Um, Not really.
Really?
And it's just the one brother on my mom's side that I grew up with.
Mm.
And now, like when we see each other, I think you actually met that brother who was at my son's first birthday.
Which guy was he?
Um, the one I threw in the pool a few times. And
Okay,
like the
cool.
tattoos.
Yeah, I remember him.
Hands
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
that's your bro.
Yeah.
Wow.
So now we're cool. Like, we were kids and we don't really hold anything against each other, but we're not like super close. Every once in a while we'll get on PlayStation and play together for a bit, but we don't talk much. And then Evan was kind of like the siblings that you talked about
Hmm.
that you didn't grow up together, and so it was kind of awkward. So when my dad was sick and close to death, I reached out to him and my two sisters in California, and was just like, "Hey, I want to come visit." Right? And Evan blew me off.
Wow.
But one of my sisters didn't, and so I go out and I'm staying with her, and she's like, "Dude, you got to come hang out with this guy. He's literally so much like you."
Mm.
And so he comes around, and yeah, me and Evan hit it off, and we're, you know, that I guess making up for lost time. So
Mm.
everything's a joke, and we're just happy as can be to reconnect. And I kind of convinced him to move out here to work with me in real estate.
Wow.
And that's obviously a huge difference of like, hey, let's meet on social time and reconnect versus, hey, let's spend 9 to 5 together every day and, like
Yeah.
have financial things kind
Hmm.
of in between us.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a whole another level of intimacy
yeah,
with a sibling.
yeah.
Like look, I love my brother that I grew up with to death, but I would not get into business with him.
Right. And imagine doing it with the one that you didn't grow up with.
Exactly.
And so we try our best, and we still do the Austin investment meetup together and, send each other business when we can.
He's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
And
That is.
he took to me really fast. He didn't even know me, and he was really open and honest, and like just it was like here's the keys kind of guy.
Dude, you're a safe character.
Oh, how? Tell me why.
It's the look in your eye right now of like, oh, you said something that could potentially be weird. Please explore that with me.
Yeah,
Right? Like
yeah.
that. It's very safe, and it's not something that I think is men especially that we get often that
Mm.
opportunity.
Maybe the way I'm wired and the way that you're wired kind of just fits like a
Yeah.
puzzle piece or something.
Yeah, because with most people, I like you can kind of feel where your connection level is,
Hmm.
and so you have to decide how you're going to approach that relationship. But then there's some like I ended up staying out till 2 a.m. with the guy who owned the land that the bar is on, because there was a lot of like, I, I
Interest,
yeah, like
curiosity.
I could see myself going in a path that he did, and it seems like he probably also sees I'm on that path. And
Mm.
like if you achieve success in something and you see somebody blazing that trail behind you and looking to you for guidance in some sort, I think it's natural to want to reach back and help guide this person. And so hopefully I'm not stretching when I say that, but I do think that I'm going to be learning a lot from this guy over time.
I think you have a good bullshit meter, and you can tell you've done this long enough, and you're such a people connector that you can tell if someone you're going to have that relationship with them pretty
Yeah.
quickly, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and I can tell right away if they're just there to get what they can.
Yeah, there's a lot of those people too, and
Yeah,
and
majority.
that is the majority. And for what you do with the Austin investment meetups, which you have monthly, um, it's an invitation for those people as well that just kind of want to transact.
Yeah,
That's okay. It's okay.
it
I don't
is.
want to alienate them either. Totally. Do you still have the crew that you grew up with, like your friend crew? Do you still hang
No,
out with them?
no, no, no.
How did that happen? Tell me about that.
I
Surely in middle school, high school, you had a group.
it changed over time to an extent. I was I was a bit of a trouble child. Um, I was always getting in trouble because I did so they say that the bullies in school were bullied at home, and I
Mm.
can tell you that is absolute fact.
Hmm.
So I was a bit of a shithead for lack of a better word there. Um, and my friends for the most part were too.
Mm.
Um, some of them still around, and if I see them, shake hands. Maybe even if I'm on PlayStation, they're on. We'll jump in a game or whatever. But I have to try to distance myself to an extent, because I'm blazing this trail that they wouldn't want to follow me on, even if they could. It's I had to choose my journey, and a lot of it's because I have a family now. So I do have to distance myself from most of those friends.
When did you make that conscious decision, and how did you know you had to do that? Because you went from bully mode eventually to like a grown up mode, right? A little more empathetic, more you want to choose a different path.
Hmm.
Talk to me about that. I want to know the story behind that.
I mean, it's over time and through certain experiences. One of the big ones is that my best friend, my senior year of high school, ended up killing himself
Oh my
shortly after
God.
graduation.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and we one of our bonding conversations that we always talked about is how much the world sucks, and just spewing negativity. And I realized, of course, after it's too late, that I was in a position to influence the way that somebody thinks, and I influenced it in the wrong direction. And so it made me a lot more conscious of, like, sometimes you got to tuck those feelings in and say what the the person maybe needs to hear or should hear. And as a parent, that comes naturally because your kid can be pissing you off.
Not for every parent, but for
Sure.
us, yes,
Yeah.
that comes naturally.
Yeah. Okay. Very true. Um, but yeah, like your kid can be driving you insane, and you like take that breath and are like, okay, how do I achieve the result I want while simultaneously shaping this person into who I know that they can be, right? And that's how you approach the situation. So that same idea is kind of how sometimes I got to remind myself to look at any social interaction. Like, sure, that may be fun, or this may be a funny thing to say, but is it going to have a positive effect um, on the way that they see the world?
Yeah.
And so I try to be a little more conscious of the way that I interact with people.
Wow. Damn. That's heavy, man. Sorry for your loss again. Best friend. That's crazy. One of my wife's friends took his life, and it's so painful,
Yeah.
and like the funeral's different, and it's just such a shitty thing. And there's never, everyone goes through the I could have did this, I could have did that, just want to
Mhm.
kind of get you off the hook there, like someone. And I've been on that path too, like I've tried to take my own life, and there's nothing anybody can say, there's no combination of words.
Yeah.
But one thing I have learned, and it's worth highlighting here, is just showing up, like unprompted, show up at their house and be like, I'm outside. Just that will go really, really far. At least for
Mhm.
me, from someone who's been in those shoes. The text me like, I'm here for you, like just goes over my head. Like
Yeah.
it does
Thoughts
jack
and
shit.
prayers.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers. Doesn't do anything. But someone showing up, I mean, that has saved my life. Someone just showing up
Yeah.
and taking me out of a depression. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because that's heavy shit, and you could totally beat yourself up about it and let
And,
that consume you.
and there was times, but yeah, I've tried to reframe and look at everything as, even if it's a really fucked up plan, or messed up things that happen along the way, that God's plan, universe's plan is the way that it's supposed to play out.
How did you arrive at that conclusion? Did
Um,
that come to you naturally? Like, is that how you
no,
felt for years, or how
no.
did you develop that reasoning?
Psychedelics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What specifically? I
Um,
have friends that like have done the toad,
the
like the
toad.
5-MeO DMT,
Okay.
and I think that's wild, but it's real. And I have friends that have tripped on ayahuasca and like mushrooms and shit. Like,
Yeah.
what was it for you?
The start of the questioning was mushrooms.
Mm.
Like, it's as soon as you eat something like that and it makes you forget that you are this personality that you've convinced yourself of all these years, and you like step out of that for a second. It's like, oh shit, I have the power to decide who I'm going to be. And I remember the first, like, cuz they always say you have these epiphanies when you're on these trips. The very first one that I had, it was, you are what you're doing. So like, you're a podcaster because you're podcasting.
Hmm.
You're a content creator because you're creating content. You're a good
An entrepreneur
father.
because you put your neck out on there to not be a bitch, someone else's bitch, and be a slave.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you
So
make that decision. That is who you are.
yeah, and you can become whoever you want to become. You can't just wake up and put in your Instagram bio Olympian and all of a sudden you're an Olympic weightlifter. But if you want to be that, then what you do can decide that. You can wake up and work out every day and become what you want to be. And so if you're doing the same things day in and day out, and you observe that from a distance, that will tell you who you are, right? Like
When
from,
you took mushrooms for the first time, did you have that realization?
yes,
And who were you? Like, what did it tell you you were? What were you at the time?
selfish.
Hmm.
Everything I was doing was for my own pleasure.
My son, who's 19, it would not surprise me and I would not demonize him if he was in that situation or if he had that opportunity, however you want to spin it. And he did that, you know? The thing is, like, when kids grow up, they're, as a parent, their surrounding influences them more than you.
Yeah.
I was in those shoes. In 2013, I dropped acid for the first time. And I take it like at 11 p.m. and I stay up for like 36 hours. I didn't know it did that. I thought I'll go to sleep and have some trippy dreams.
Nope.
Dude, I'm on East Riverside Drive alone. There's no cars and I'm like walking in the middle of the street, like kind of having a mental breakdown, not like an I'm Jesus kind of mental breakdown, but I realized, "Oh fuck, like I am the cause of all my suffering. Like it's my decisions. Like it's me. Like all the actions I make the decisions, obviously, right? But it was such a profound moment for me. I've only dropped acid one time, and I was deeply ashamed where I was. Deeply ashamed. There's a documentary that I made about myself called 6 Weeks on Sixth Street. Prior to that, I was homeless by choice, and it really put into perspective like why I did that. Why did I do that? Why would I do that? Why would anybody do that? And it was a lot to reckon with, and it fast tracked me to maturity a little bit. I was like 23, 24 at the time, older than what you were, 18. I had no business doing that, but it really took me to another level consciously of taking radical, extreme ownership of my decisions. Like it's my fault that I'm here and that I'm alone and that I'm pathetic, and it's my fault. It isn't. It wasn't something that happened to me. I got a bad hand. I consciously went out of my way to fuck my life up. Like I did it, which means I can do the reverse
Yeah.
and I can flip it, And so that had a profound impact on me as well. So I'm glad you opened up about that. I think there's like shame and, what's the word? A stigma to taking psychedelics and,
Well,
especially
because
as
in that
parents.
moment, like
Yeah.
when you're standing in the street, yeah,
Yeah.
that's bad. Like
That's
don't
objectively bad.
yeah, don't do that often. However, what you learned in that, as long as you apply it afterwards,
Yeah.
like it can have a good effect on you
It,
over time.
it did. It
Yeah.
did. And I've suggested to people like you should try it. Everybody should try taking a psychedelic at least once in their life. I think Donald Trump should try to take a psychedelic if
Yeah.
he hasn't before.
I
And
have a
like
feeling he
it'd be
has.
really cool to see him detach from his ego, which is so massive. It'd be really cool to see that. That's neither here nor there. You have a daughter that's my age.
Your daughter's age, yes.
Yeah, a daughter that's my daughter's age.
Right.
To
I
be
know what you mean.
to be clear. And so you were a young dad.
Yeah. I don't want to leave the house unless I have to.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such a blessing and something that I'm forever grateful to real estate, specifically in this industry that I'm in, because I don't always have to leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like I put in my time of 8 hours on the road opening doors for lease properties. I put in my time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a position now where if a door needs opening and I don't want to go open it, I pay someone $50 to open it, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of my agents or someone, a colleague. And if I'm sitting in front of my computer and I'm working and I'm getting stressed out, I just turn my chair, open my door, take a few steps, and he looks up with me with, baby eyes, da-da, like that.
That does it, right?
Dude, yeah. Instant remotivation, or reminding me what I'm in there struggling for.
Mm-hmm.
For this. This is my reward, and it's worth it 100 times over.
Shout out to your partner, your significant other. You married?
Yeah.
Shout out to your wife for holding it down and just she still likes you for whatever reason. What the hell was that? She still likes you, and it's. I'm gonna give you some unsolicited advice. Like as much as it's all about your kids, like it's all about her too. Like keep her as a priority because that's what makes that unit. That's what sustains that, you know.
Absolutely.
And I remember when I first was when I knocked up Claire and we were going to have a kid. I had this conversation with an older lady, and she's like, "You got to make it all about your kids." And I was like, "Yeah, I will, of course, but it's gonna be all about my wife too. Like, it's all about her, man. She's the one that created these eyeballs from scratch. Like, if happy wife, happy life. It's trite, it's cliche, but I do believe it, and so I always pedestalize the women as well. Because without them, like, how can we do anything? Seriously, like,
Yeah.
how could we do anything?
No, not at all. And to get to the point of having that house of love and that environment where I just open the door and boom, instant love. I didn't create that. Like, sure, I pay the mortgage, right? But I didn't create that environment. My wife has always been my rock, my anchor. Because I mean, you know me, I'd fly away, dude. I'm a I don't even know how to put it into words, but I can't stay grounded to earth alone. Like she is what keeps me here.
There's a Radiohead song called "Videotape." It's really good, and there's a lyric that says, "You are my center when I spin away."
There it is.
I feel like those are the words.
Yeah.
She's that for you.
Yeah, that's perfect. And she's seen through all the phases, right? Like I met her the year I had my daughter. I was still a
Oh
shithead.
wow.
I was still very much a shithead or attempting to recover shithead.
Hmm.
And not attempting very hard for the first few years, if we're being honest. Um, and so she's seen the growth and stuck with me through versions of myself that I'm not proud of. And so if anyone deserves to go on this empire building journey with me, she paid her dues.
She paid her dues. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's worth highlighting because a ride or die
Yeah.
when shit was not cool.
And it definitely was not for a while. Like as a rookie real estate agent with not much guidance, the average pay per year is like I want to say 12 grand.
Wow.
The average first year agent is like between 12 and 20.
You definitely have to have another job.
You should.
And then how do you scale your business if it's not your full time job?
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. And a lot of people from the outside looking in are like, oh, real estate agents are overpaid. I'm like, dude, the ones who make it usually deserve it.
Yeah. They're the 1%, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I want to get there, but what was the gap from? Did you go to college?
Yeah.
What college did you go to?
UTSA.
What was your major?
Marketing.
Did you finish?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that. Why marketing? Because that's a bankable skill, man. That was a good one to invest your time into.
Yeah, it was.
And you're a really good marketer.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a fit. And I'm gonna throw my Dia under the bus here. She convinced me to go to college, so I'll give her props there. However, she had convinced me that it doesn't matter what you major in, which is terrible advice.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. Because from her perspective and in her defense, when you apply for jobs, they ask if you have a degree, and that's the threshold for certain jobs. So that's how she was looking at it.
Very old school.
Yeah. However, as you can see, I'm never going to apply for a job for the rest of my fucking life. I refuse.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I had great job offers coming out of college. I was top of my class, well decorated, president of students in leadership.
Wow.
Like I was an overachiever then too. So I went for psychology because I'd like to explore the way that people think.
So obviously,
Sounds cool.
Obviously, at this time, you're thinking about a career. Entrepreneurship was not an option at this moment.
I didn't think about it enough. Yeah, because I was convinced that you just go and you get your degree and then you get offered jobs.
Yeah.
Very stupid.
So you did psychology for a minute.
Well, luckily in your first year they make you do a ton of electives and just intro courses to everything. And so luckily that first semester, yeah, I was technically a psychology major and I took intro to marketing. And it's weird to people who maybe don't like school, but I fell in love, dude.
What was it about it?
Well, it was applied psychology.
Marketing was.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's still how I see it.
oh, dude, you're one of those. You're one of those like this is human behavior.
Yeah,
Those guys that figure that out become master marketers.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it is. It's so you take what naturally appeals to humans. You take the way that people think, and then you create something that appeals to them and present it in a package that it does provide value to them. And the definition of value is they get more out of it than they give to you. And that indicates that they're giving you something, aka paying you.
Mm.
And so when I get out of school and there's these options to, market for companies and make, I think the best one I looked at was starting at like 80 grand. Um, I'm like, how much money am I gonna make them for them to start me at 80 grand?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
And and when I told I'm gonna throw a deal under the bus now, I said that I passed that up, and I was like a year and a half out of college, and we're driving every day to go get our hands dirty and flip a house. And he's like, "You're an idiot. You should have took that fucking job. Why are you out here doing shit with? I'm uneducated. And you're out here doing stuff with me. I know you're not making any money, and I wasn't. But another beautiful thing that I learned is exponential growth, and I knew if I can just nail down these skills and create something that I can then market, like it'll take off like this. Versus if I start high, right, MX plus, or talk about,
You plateau.
or it's just a flat growth, and
Mm-hmm.
it might not even beat inflation the way that shit's been going.
Mm-hmm.
So I consciously took a
You were
pay
smart.
cut.
You were smart to do that.
Thank you.
You invested in yourself.
It was a huge gamble investing in myself, but yeah, I'm glad I did, obviously, and I would do it over and over and over again,
So you finished college. You got a degree in marketing,
and didn't use it
and
technically.
you never used it in an official technical capacity.
Right, but some of the things I learned, I absolutely do apply. And have
So those that listen to this podcast know that I'm ignorant and I never went to college. I'm a self-taught guy. I always say I went to YouTube University, tutorials and whatnot. What did you learn in college? I have a biased perspective, but it seems like, dude, you took away a lot from it. What are some gems?
um, there are a few gems. I will say honestly, going to college, even though it was part of my journey, isn't something I'd recommend.
Mm.
Like huge waste of time and money.
Mm.
For being honest. However, I will give you the gems I took away. So one is kind of exemplifying what we talked about earlier of you are what you do. So I had friends that as soon as they're out of school, they're just getting high, playing video games. And don't get me wrong, I sat on my fair share of couches. However, I, outside of my classes, was involved in the supplemental instruction program and ended up being a senior leader and then the marketing director for that. Like I was taking steps to always do more. And then I was involved in organizations. I was hitting the gym consistently back then. And so when you're released from your parents' captivity and you're out there on your own and you truly get to decide what you do with your time, it absolutely defines how you come out on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a little trial run of what life is.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, yeah, we could never get out of bed until they foreclose and someone comes and kicks us out of our own house.
Mm-hmm.
That is a conscious decision.
Mm-hmm.
And for entrepreneurs like you and me, we're here on a Saturday on our own accord.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody forced us to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody forces me to put on the events that had me out till 2 a.m. last night. Nobody is gonna force me to do the other round of content with NAREP that I wasn't forced to be the marketing director for either.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are all conscious decisions that I make daily to make me into the person that I know that I'm supposed to be. So that's one very long.
That's a
lesson,
gem,
I
and
guess.
college gave you that, huh?
I think it could have just been the time of in my life where I was gonna learn it, whether I was out there or out here
How old were you at that time
in college.
when you had that gem, that realization?
Um, I guess I didn't put it into words right
Sure,
away.
sure. But that trial run where you were like, kind of, oh, these decisions are going to be my
Yeah.
life, and so do I foreclose and do nothing, or do I actually get after it? Like that sort of realization, that
Yeah.
era. Like, around what age were you?
I think that one hit me pretty quick because I've always been a bit of a overachiever. Like I always want to do stuff. So probably freshman year because
So you're 19, 18.
yeah.
That's a gem. What's another one?
Oh shit, yeah, sorry. I'll go down rabbit
Oh,
holes,
I
man. You
love
gotta
it.
guide
I
me
want to
out of
go
them.
deep into every single rabbit hole you want to explore.
All right.
What's
Uh,
another one? Because it's
yeah,
college. You don't necessarily co-sign and recommend it, but you got a lot out of it.
yeah. Well, I'll give you a couple actual ones from classes.
Okay.
So the the class that I was in the most because it was the one that I was doing the supplemental instruction. I was basically hosting study sessions. So I sat through this class I think 4 times total. It was introduction to microeconomics,
Mm.
and there was 2 gems from that economics class in college. One is opportunity cost.
Mm.
So it's not just about what something cost you, it's what are you giving up to pursue this opportunity because you can't do both.
Example.
Well, the example would be when I graduated and could have took the job at 80K. That means I'm giving up the opportunity cost of that is the time that I could be putting into pursuing my own entrepreneurial abilities.
Hmm.
And that was too expensive for me.
Got it.
So,
So every decision or every opportunity has a flip side.
right, the cost of pursuing anything is what you're giving up by not pursuing the alternative, which is why I kind of distanced myself a bit from property management because the time I'm putting into that versus growing a brokerage that I can truly scale and reach more people, um, that's too expensive for me.
And there was another one that you learned in that class.
Yes, sunk cost.
Okay, there's a sunk cost fallacy. I've,
There it
I've heard
is.
of this.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Okay. Um, if this one's really easy to put into relationships. Let's say that you've been with, and this isn't either of our situation, right? But let's say that you've been with a girl for 10 years and you're fucking miserable. But you're like, oh, we have all this history and I don't want to restart. And I, we're already 10 years in. That 10 years doesn't fucking matter
Mm.
at all, right? Because your decision should be from this very moment,
Mm-hmm.
which direction makes the most sense for you. So sunk cost can be applied to if someone's thinking about quitting their job to pursue entrepreneur lifestyle. They might be like, "Oh, I'm already 5 years in to this job, and I'm just gonna leave it." Dude, that 5 years is done. It's gone. It should not be considered at all for making your next choice. Your next choice is, are you gonna wake up tomorrow and clock in at 9 a.m. and commute, or are you going to go into your own office and pursue your own true abilities and calling on this earth? So whatever's happened in the past, whatever investment you've made up to this point should not be considered. So the fallacy of sunk cost is people will consider that, and you shouldn't.
They think it adds value. Well, I put in 10 years. Like that
Yeah,
means something.
yeah. It's like,
That's the fallacy.
yeah, it's gone. That 10 years isn't coming back. From this very moment, here are the pros and cons of each choice. Right? Whatever's happened that you made this choice before does not matter. From this very moment, which way makes the most sense?
So I want to share my recent sunk cost fallacy. In 2019, I started this business called Indie Darlings. That was going to be my media production company. Now, the vision I had for it was going to be like a movement, a club. I wanted to create a Facebook group. I'd be satisfied with 50,000 members in there, and they were all indie darlings. This indie darling concept is like this underground artists that embrace their obscurity. Like we're not going to be mainstream. Fuck it. Like we're indie darlings, right? And then it just turned into like this business. I was a one person business. I do everything myself. And I bring this up because my wife and I just had this conversation today. We're TMI, but we're switching banks. It's a whole thing. And I'm wondering if Indie Darlings is a sunk cost, because the truth is Knives Monroe, the personal brand, is more, it gets me more business. And it is Knives Monroe, the one brand, like regardless, like no one gives a shit about Indie Darlings. People aren't like, they don't give a fuck. They're buying me. And so I can proceed my business as a sole proprietorship, to speak business talk, um, and just continue what I do as Knives Monroe and kind of not dissolve Indie Darlings. I still like it, I wear the flag and everything, but a part of me is like, it is a sunk cost. It never actualized into what I wanted it to be. I saw this, a team and all kinds of crazy shit. And a part of me is like, wow, but I put in 6 years, and I can do another 5 and see if I can make that happen. But today I woke up with, let me make a decision.
Yeah.
And let me make the tough decision, because no decision is a decision. And the tough decision is, I got to kill it. That doesn't mean, I have an Instagram that has 20,000 followers. It's nothing, but I put in time into this thing, and it doesn't mean that, oh man, it's flushed down the toilet. That's not what it means. I still have a Rolodex. I still have a, client base and blah, blah, blah. But I think I'm going to proceed with Knives Monroe, the entity, the brand, the whatever you want to call it. And I have to accept that Indie Darlings not was a failure, but it served its purpose.
Sure.
And so I just had an encounter with this sunk cost fallacy today. So I wanted to apply that.
Well, and it's good that you did make the right decision and didn't let the sunk cost of the time that you've put on,
the time and the merch and the blah, 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 the websites. And it's just like, yo, it costs money at the end of the day, and I don't want to pay that price anymore.
And the time that you would spend pursuing that, the opportunity cost is not pursuing your Knives Monroe personal brand.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like that's what moves the needle in my bank account, is the Knives Monroe brand or whatever. So there's that. It sounds like a little douchey, the Knives Monroe brand, but it is.
Dude, I call myself Derek the Dealsmith.
You live up to it, though. So
we can be douchey.
I love that. I want to move away from college, but give me one more gem that you got from a class or from your experience there.
As you research a topic more, you learn more. However, the amount that you learn and the return that additional bit of research will bring diminishes over time.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you learn enough to get started, right, that's when you should start. That's the intersection of the returns of learning versus the time spent learning. So as the time spent learning goes up, the marginal return of the time spent researching goes down.
Diminishing returns.
Diminishing returns, yes. So as you get to the point where like you're looking at all the intricacies of what could possibly happen and how do I take that down at that time, dude, by the time you run into that specific problem, you're going to fucking forget anyways, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this applies to a lot of newer real estate agents. They're like, I'm not ready to go out there and market myself because I don't know
enough.
Yeah. Like what if they want to buy this house and I don't know exactly which addendums to put on the contract? Run into that problem
when you get to it.
Yeah. And then call your fucking broker. Right? Like, but go out there and get to the problem. Yes. Hit the leads, get them as far as you can. And then as soon as they say, okay, yeah, I'm ready to put this in writing.
Cross that bridge when you get to it.
Yeah. Then you say, okay, well, let me prepare all the documents and I'll have it in your inbox here in an hour. And then immediately call your broker. Or if your broker sucks, call me and I'll tell you what to put in there. And then, yeah, cross the bridge when you get to it. But trying to memorize problem A through Z and their potential solutions.
It's procrastination, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just BSing around because you don't want to do the thing.
It's an excuse.
It's an excuse.
Absolutely. And it's similar for like cold calling. Every time I've tried to hire a cold caller, they give me the same bullshit of, oh, well, I think I need to practice more because what if they say this? I'm like, dude, just have a couple little obstacle, avoiding techniques of like, that's a great question. I'll look into that and get back to you. Do you have any other questions you want me to look into?
What's that quote that you had? It's like fuck your feelings, work harder, or something like that.
It was fuck luck, work harder.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck knowing everything. Just do it. Work harder.
Yeah.
Like that. That's tremendous. So they taught you that in class?
They didn't say those words to me in class.
Sure, but that gem that can save people a decade.
Yeah, the diminishing returns of I forget the exact words for that specific idea, but yeah, they do.
Dude, that's a huge one. So you're out of college. What now?
So I was a tattoo artist through the last 2 years of high school, through college, just a way to make extra cash. Decided to look into real estate wholesaling is where I started.
Why?
Well, actually,
I saw that you Googled how to make $1,000,000 or something, how to get rich,
yeah, how to become a millionaire.
how to become a millionaire, and did that Google search lead you down that path, or like what piqued
Yeah.
your interest?
Yeah, it was that. Real estate was the number one answer, and wholesaling is always presented as a way to get into real estate without the fiduciary duty and without having to get a license. And as I started wholesaling, and I actually dabbled a little bit in college, what you run into is you're leaving a lot of opportunity and money on the table. And what should be more important, and to most people apparently isn't, is you're going to connect with a lot of people as you're trying to find deals to wholesale that could use help, and they're just not desperate enough to take your low offer. Because to wholesale a property, you have to get it so cheap that you can add your fee on top of it, sell it to an investor, and the investor can still make money on it.
Okay, pause. I want to deep dive into this. I really do. What the fuck is wholesaling? In layman's terms, explain to me. Your Chat GPT. Explain to me as if I'm in 6th grade. What is wholesaling?
Okay, so wholesaling in real estate is where you get a property under contract and you essentially sell the contract to somebody else to actually close on.
Oh,
So let's say that you have a house that I know is worth 200 grand, and
it's been appraised. Like you know it.
well, if it's been appraised, then you're probably not going to take my wholesale offer.
Okay, so explain it again.
Yeah. So you own a house. I run comps secretly. Like I don't do it in front of you usually.
And that means what?
Look at what similar properties have sold for.
Okay.
And I determine that your house should be worth $200,000. I get you to agree to sell it to me for cash for 120. Now you got to be in a certain type of situation or a certain type of idiot to,
I gotta be
to take
desperate,
these
like you
offers.
said.
Right. And I add $10,000, $15,000, whatever I think I can get away with, to where an investor will pay that 120 plus my 15. They'll pay 135 for this house, knowing that they're still getting a good enough deal.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so it is a way to, if you want to get into real estate, you can get in without a license.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to buy the properties. But here's the thing. How many people do I have to call and offer to buy their house for one of them to be in such a dire situation that they're going to take 120 when it's worth 200?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of those calls that say, sure, I'll sell my house, but not to you for that number. And you're going to piss off a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
The number one complaint about wholesalers is that they're sketchy. They're slimy.
Sure.
And I know a lot of wholesalers that are great people, and I still wholesale occasionally, right? If they're in certain distressed situations and that's the best choice for them. However, I was running into a lot of people that are like, dude, I'm not that desperate. There's no way I'm taking that price. Don't ever call me again. Go fuck yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I was like, this person could actually use my help liquidating this property. It's just that because wholesale is my only option, I'm having to get it at such a low price that I'm upsetting these people, and I'm losing the potential business.
It's also hurting your reputation, isn't it, in a way?
Most
People are
wholesalers
going
have a
to
terrible
associate,
reputation.
they're going to associate your name, your brand with like pain. Like
Yeah.
this guy's just kind of like a vulture just trying to get like scraps, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and so to the public and the people that are approached by wholesalers, and wholesalers will agree with this, they aren't usually taken too kindly. They have to do numbers. They have to do volume to get the ones that they can get at the price for them to transact on. So what I ran into is if I had my real estate license, I could make them the wholesale offer and then say, okay, if you don't like that number, I can put it on the market. Just know it comes with, the average days on market right now is 90,
Mm.
and, there's going to be people in and out of the house. They're going to have options periods and may or may not actually transact. And so now I'm able to lay it out as options. And for some of them, it's like, no way. I don't want people in and out. I don't want to deal with all that shit. Just give me the cash offer. And
If you're licensed, you present them with those options.
you can.
Right.
So most wholesalers will only give them the lowball cash offer,
That's
and
it.
most agents will only say I can list your house.
Got it.
Something that I do and that I want to empower all my agents to do is to be able to give them options.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, hey, if you don't want to deal with all the shit that comes with putting your house on the market, you just want it to be sold quick for cash, here's the number that I can comfortably offer you. Now, if you want to see who will pay you the most, it's unfortunately not me directly,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not going to put my name as the buyer on here,
Mm-hmm.
but I will help you find that buyer. It involves going on the market, and here's the things that come with that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now it's like, are you in a distressed situation where you need the cash offer, or are you in a situation where you need the best bottom line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's pros and cons to each,
Mm-hmm.
and some people, believe it or not, will still choose to go with the cash offer and not wholesale it.
Just a quick payday type thing.
It can be.
Yeah. Well, for them, they're desperate, like you said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For them, yeah.
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 It's like, let's just get rid of it.
Exactly. And a
And
lot
that
of
has a
people will.
place in the market.
Absolutely.
It has a place.
Yeah. If they inherited the property, or if there's multiple people on it.
It's a great point.
Yeah. Or if they're, pre-foreclosure, behind on taxes, there's reasons why people would take that.
Mm.
But what I was running into, even if you're calling those lists that are supposedly tax delinquent, some of them are like, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to pay it before they take it from me.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to sell my house. And before I got my license, I had to be like, oh, sorry. Call me when you're desperate. Call me when you can't pay the bills.
Yeah.
Like, that's dirty. I didn't enjoy that. So I got my license. So something I look at every Monday, and Wednesdays, because it's middle of the week, is there's a part on the MLS called the Market Watch. And it shows in a bar graph all of the new listings, the price reductions, the price increases, the back on markets, the pending, under contract, closed,
Oh.
and expired. And it shows, and you can clearly see on there like the size of the bars. And if you're looking at this, several times a week for years, you catch trends.
Yeah.
And so when the market was good, it was like everything's closing, and that closed bar is bigger than the new bar, and the price reductions is almost non-existent. That's how it was for the first couple of years.
Mm.
And over the past, I'd say probably 2 years, the way it looks is the new listings is big, the price reductions is bigger, the pending is tiny, and the closed is tiny. And it's been like that every week for at least a year now. There was one or two exceptions. I think the first week of this year, it looked like it was going to change, and there was 1 week last year that it showed that way too. But if you look over time, like it's been so much shit's hitting the market, so many things that are sitting on the market are dropping prices, and very little amount of properties are actually selling.
Why do you think that is? What's the macro trend here? Why is that happening?
Interest rates.
Mm.
The prices.
Buyers don't want to pay at that fucking interest rate.
Well, and sellers are, a lot of them got in unfortunate situations. So when the interest rates were low, their purchasing power in terms of price went up. The prices went up so high, and sure, people are dropping them, but they're not dropping them by the amount of the difference in purchasing power from, the interest rates that got the prices to go so high versus where they're at now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the sellers aren't lowering them enough, some of them because they can't, because maybe they bought when the interest rates were so low. But they also, like, we can't necessarily drop the interest rates because the same shit's going to happen again.
Right.
Or at least not dramatically. Like, yeah, drop them over time, which I think is the plan right now. But, so yeah, rabbit hole again. But
I like it.
What I was getting at is that making low offers on the MLS, like you would have to lowball them.
Mm-hmm.
You would absolutely have to lowball them because the prices that they're sitting at, they're sitting.
Yeah.
Like if no one's buying it on the market, you can't offer them what they're asking for, and then expect to sell it cash already under contract to
That's so
somebody
true.
on the back end.
That's so true.
But at the time that I got into that first project, that wasn't the
Yes.
case.
Yes, it was not. So you checked, you found it on the MLS?
Yeah, the day that it hit,
This is the old dilapidated house where that person, it was an estate sale.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, it was an amazing price. I sent him an offer this like within an hour of it hitting the market, and I was like, I'm gonna wholesale this 100%. And then I'm like, hey, if anything else comes in, call me.
Who do you send the offer to? The estate or to the government?
To
Who is
the-
that?
To the listing agent.
The listing agent.
Yes.
How did they get it?
They have a relationship probably with the probate attorney.
Okay.
But yeah, so technically the heirs of the property have to be the one to hire the listing agent. And so I submit the offer to the listing agent.
Oh, okay.
I say, hey, if anything else comes in, call me. Don't accept anything else. And he does. He's like, hey, someone else offered pretty much exactly what you did. And my sellers are kind of on standby. They don't know which one to pick.
And they know that you're coming as a wholesaler.
I don't know. I mean, it had, and or there's certain phrase that you put on the buyer section to where maybe he did.
It doesn't matter. It's just a deal at the end of the day.
And the way a lot of wholesalers pass it off, and I honestly still use this phrase sometimes, except the difference is nowadays I usually mean it. It's I put that phrase in there that I can assign this contract to a different buyer because I'm going to open an LLC that we're going to purchase this in. And it actually ended up being true on this
Wow.
one. So yeah, and I put it under contract. While he calls me back, he's like, yeah, these are identical. I was like, okay, dude, I'm going to give you an extra $5,000. If I'm going to do this, I need them to sign it like right away. Otherwise, I'll just stay at where I'm at.
$5,000 on the offer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not directly to him.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
to
Of
the
course.
seller.
Yeah.
But I need them to sign it right away.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I think they'll do it. I honestly think they were on like a 3-way call on mute.
It's got to happen.
Yeah.
It's got to happen.
So he agrees. I upped the offer $5,000, and then so I called this guy who had been looking for investment properties. And here's a little rabbit hole about working with investors. There's so many people that say, "Oh yeah, I'm just looking for a good deal," and they can't define it. They don't know exactly what they're looking for. They can't.
They wouldn't even know a good deal if it was slapping them on the face.
Sometimes, and then you'll find exactly what they're looking for, and they're like, yeah, maybe not this one. And it's so very frustrating to work with investors. So if you're going to work with investors, have a list of them to where if you underwrite a deal for one investor and for whatever reason they say, no, this isn't the one, even if it fits all their other boxes, you have a whole list of other investors that, hey, I already did all the underwriting on this one. This is a decent deal.
That's a great tip. But you found an investor.
So I had been trying to show this guy a few, and I take him, and he's like, yeah, man, me and my wife have always talked about buying the ugliest house on a block and flipping it, and I'd love to flip it. I don't have time. I was like, dude, I have nothing but time. Like I'll get in here. I'll put in some sweat equity. I'll get this place flipped. You put up the money, and after we sell it, I'll give you all your money back, and whatever's left, we split.
So this was a partnership.
It became a partnership. It
So
wasn't. My
as-
intention was to wholesale.
Yes.
And when I presented it to him on the spot, I recognized an opportunity. It became a partnership.
So you can just kind of change your direction,
Options.
course correct anytime.
Yeah, I was out there smithing deals, man.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you did do that.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you buy it for?
130.
How much like rehab did you put in?
I want to say it was like 35,000.
What'd you do?
A lot, dude.
Like roof, floor,
Yeah.
kitchen shit?
A lot of demo. Yeah, we redid all the floors. There was some foundation work. I don't remember if we switched the roof, but like
Where did you come up with that money to he did. The investor did.
He came up with the down payment for a hard money loan.
Hard money loan.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So-
that's the skin in the game money.
Right. Yeah. A hard money lender is going to make you put some skin in the game.
Okay.
And so he brought that money. I did the work. He covered the hard money
How'd you have
payments.
the connections to do the work?
It was me and my uncle, dude.
Wait, you did it?
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Okay,
I
so
was
you're
out there.
saving money there.
I was out there taping and floating and laying flooring, dude.
No
I was
way.
fucking I was trying to earn it, and like we
You just
hired
wanted
out
to
some
save some
stuff.
money.
Yeah, like we hired a foundation company, of
Okay.
course. We hired a plumber, but for
But
the
you're doing the
majority of
demo.
it, yeah, dude. That actually my very first YouTube video. It's day one of that flip,
That's sick.
and they had like a covered patio,
Yeah.
but it was super short and fucked up. And so the opening scene, I'm like, "Welcome day one." I just throw it over. I
That's
still
cool.
think that was like
That
one
is
of the
cool.
coolest things I ever did. I was like, "Man," throw the little railing down. But yeah, we were out there every fucking day.
You and your
You know,
uncle.
yeah,
Wow. So you bought it for 125,
130.
130. You put in X amount to rehab it.
Yeah, around 30. At the end of the day, after everything, I want to say that the total profit was like 16 grand.
Okay, so
It was nothing crazy.
you get a loan to cover what you thought the value was going to be after the rehab.
Right.
And
The loan was for the purchase price, holding costs, and the estimated amount of rehab.
right.
And then when we sold, the difference between that amount and the initial investment and the selling price minus closing costs is what the profit ended up being. And then we split that in half.
Was it worth it?
Absolutely. Like, would I go manually flip another house on that side of town again? No.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that I learned,
Oh yeah.
yeah, priceless. And the fact that I made money.
Yeah, it's true.
At that time, I needed money so bad.
I was gonna ask. That was my question. So after you guys fixed it, did you know? But I don't know. Depending on the loan, how long did you have to sell it,
Um,
or how long did it take to sell?
I mean, so this part I actually do remember timing a bit because when it was time to sell, COVID was just hitting.
Hmm.
And we thought, like I think a lot of people thought, it was going to lower the prices.
Mm.
And so we put on the market and that thing sold fucking quick.
Probably could have raised the price if you want to. In
Yeah, but
hindsight.
we thought it was going to go down. And yeah, in hindsight, dude, I would have fucking just sat on it for another 4 months and sold for way more.
Before you got into business with this investor, um, did you do the math? Like, is there like an equation of like, here's what it's going to look like. Here's going to be the cost. We're going to rehab. We're going to do this. I'm going to split it 50-50. Here's the profit I'm projected to make. Is there a formula?
Yeah.
And what was the outcome? Was it close to that formula?
Um,
Well, I mean, was it close to that? Oh, I didn't profit that much.
it actually was. The thing is, I, I probably did the formula a little bit optimistically
As
because
everyone does.
I didn't account for me having to do most of the work.
The labor. Yeah.
So like I assumed that it was the rehab was going to cost less with hiring it out, and instead it costed the same amount with me fucking doing most of
Okay.
it. I'm a lot better at those estimates now.
Yeah. Tremendous lesson.
Yeah, and this guy, we ended up doing this at least 3 more times. No,
Okay.
3 times total.
Now, I want to paint the pictures because people that listen to this, there's wholesaling, there's real estate agents that make money off of selling people's houses.
Yeah.
And they get a cut, whatever that is. Everyone knows that. And then there's what you did as a real estate investor. So you wear multiple hats.
Yeah.
You're approaching this thing. I like to compare it to like a mixed martial artist. You have a ground game, you have a standing game. It's different. You're not just a boxer and that's
Yeah.
it, right?
And what's crazy on this specific one, I did all 3.
You
I
did
put it
all
under
3.
contract to wholesale.
Yes.
I ended up making a commission, which since it was my first one, I rebated it to the company, which in hindsight, I'll never do that again. Like
You're just being a good
deserve
soldier.
to get paid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I put on my investor hat plus the contractor hat. I was in there,
And the
laying
contractor
flooring.
hat. That's true. And then as an investor, you sold it, you made a cut. So you're making commission, you're making money along the way.
I should have. And on future ones, yes, I did take my commission as we go.
Wow. No one's ever broken this down for me this way.
Yeah. Well, most people don't do this.
That why?
Well, they do one or the other.
Why?
Um,
Is it because they have a W 2 on the side and they can't fully commit? Because your approach, I don't know what you'd call it, but like just a multi hyphenate, multifaceted, entrepreneur, like doing it this way, seems like a no brainer.
yeah. Well, the thing is, like, to get good at any one facet takes some bit of focus and energy, and I think I just pick up on things pretty quickly, and also have a hard time focusing, as I'm sure you can tell during this podcast.
No, 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 we're good. It's a dance.
Yeah, so I I honestly think for a lot of people, if you're really good at one thing, do that. Like,
And can you make a fortune sticking with one thing?
sure, yeah,
Okay.
like most real estate agents should be just real estate agents.
And when you say you have a hard time focusing, is it because you have like a shiny object syndrome where you're like, I
Yes,
want to try this, I want to try that, I want to try
yeah,
this?
and at that time, like I was broke, so when even though I wanted to wholesale it and make a quick buck, when he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess we could make the way that I heard what he said was, yeah, I guess we could make some money here, but it's not going to be according to the original plan." I was like, "Well, fuck it, I'll adjust. Yeah, let's make the money."
Mm,
That's how I heard it.
yeah.
Right? What he said was, "I'd like to flip this house. I don't have the time." But what I heard is,
Mm,
"Yeah, we can make money, but it's gonna require an adjustment to the plan."
got it.
And so I was like, "Dude, fuck it, yeah." And I didn't know much about contracting. I was doing whatever the fuck my uncle said
Yeah.
and listening to his. I see no way.
Yeah. Yeah. You were just a body.
Yeah, yeah. But dude, I learned a ton, and that ended up paying dividends in the future when someone would come in and give me a bid, and I'm like, bro, I know how long that shit takes. I know how much effort. I bought the material for that before. Like I know when someone's trying to fuck me over.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in the world, no? And
Oh,
in your
ton,
space.
a ton.
Everyone's just trying to fucking get more
Yeah. So
than something actually requires or is worth.
yeah,
And then you have creatives like me and other creatives that you worked with that are constantly amputating their legs to get a job.
yeah,
It's like, why are you accepting $250 to do that thing? Like you're killing it for all of us.
yeah,
They're killing themselves and they're killing the business just to get a deal.
yeah.
When in your line of things, people are like trying to add shit on top. I
Right.
just think it's interesting.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I'm guilty of it.
Mm.
Like the fact that I didn't take a commission, didn't pay myself for any of the labor, was coming out of pocket for materials. Like I was absolutely shooting myself in the foot in a way that, like, of course the guy was down to do it again. Like
Mm.
who the fuck else is gonna do that?
Mm.
No one. Um,
So you're with TRE at this time.
at this
At that
time,
time when you made your first deal.
when I did that first flip, yeah, I was with TRE.
Okay, so what was like the next big W moving forward? Now we're in the pandemic. You had done a project.
Yeah.
It was successful. You made a profit.
Hmm.
You got some money off of that.
Yeah, I did probably another, I don't know, somewhere around 10 flips. And
Really?
I profited on all of them except the one that I didn't. And that one ate up the profit from at least like four of them.
Ouch. That's gonna happen, right?
It's
It's a
it's
net.
likely.
It's a net thing where it's like I have 10 flips, and so 6 of them profitable and 4 I ate it. That's a pretty decent ratio.
Hopefully you have a better ratio than that.
Mhm.
It was, yeah, I was like 9-1, I guess.
And so to the listeners, just to paint this picture, you did what you did with that other project 10 more times.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
actually, there was, it wasn't always the same investor,
Of course.
but yeah, same idea. Same idea.
Right.
Different people.
How do you know when to trust a partner? What is your criteria for, this guy or gal, especially having been through it all now, I can trust them and I can bring them into the circle and I can do a deal with them?
Dude, I love this question. A lot of it comes from gut feeling. So if you have a potential partner and you're deciding whether or not to work with them, you have to have your non-negotiables and you have to find out what their non-negotiables are. And then everything that is negotiable, negotiate. See if it makes sense. And if it doesn't, shake hands and walk away. Don't force it. Because that's where I fucked up. Was like one of their non-negotiables is something that kind of went against one of mine, and I was like, no, I'm not going to budge on this. This isn't how we're going to write it, but I'll try. And that's where I fucked up.
Hmm.
And she's like, no, you said you're gonna try to do it this way. I'm like, yeah, but the market's changing. So when you're choosing a partner, if it's not a fit, don't force it. And my biggest non-negotiable now is you're not gonna have the power to get in the way of what needs to be done. Like the value that I bring as a partner in real estate investing is I will do the work. I've put in my years of learning. I'm still learning. I will continue to learn throughout the project, but I will not be hindered by a so-called investor because you have a different opinion on something.
And just because you put in some money doesn't mean you're going to overwrite all the work and everything that you're putting in.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. So if someone wants to do business with you, it's like, let you cook.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. And don't get me wrong, there's other deals that I might work out in the near future where I'm not the operator,
Hmm.
but it's not going to be like I'm not pitching in my money for someone else to build flex space. Like no, I'm using other people's money to for me to be the one
Yeah.
to develop it. And on that one, it's funny because I say that on my first project, oh, I didn't take a commission and I didn't take any fees, and I'd never do that again.
Hmm. But
I'm doing it right now
why?
because it's my first development.
Okay.
Like because it was my first flip, I did that. Now if we're flipping a house, no, dude, I'm taking my commission.
Yeah.
But since it's my first development and they're trusting in me, I had to. I guess I didn't have to. I offered to arrange it in a way where I only get paid if I make you a profit.
Okay.
And by all signs, we're going to make a ridiculous profit.
And you're doing it for like the resume, essentially, for the portfolio?
Yeah,
Like I have a development.
right. Once this one succeeds, when it succeeds, I will be able to do it again. But when I do it again, I don't want to say standard, but a more common percentage that someone in my position would keep is 20%, 20 to 30. But if you take 30, you're probably not going to take fees. So what I'm going to do on future ones is I'm going to keep 20% equity and I'm going to charge a 6% development fee. So whatever it costs to do all this stuff, for me being the one to go through making it all happen, I'm going to take 6% of that cost as the developer's fee.
Oh,
Right now, I'm not taking shit. Now, at the very end of the day, I'm going to end up with 10% of the profit.
okay.
However, projections right now are in 7 figures for the total amount of profit. So
10% of that is
I'll take it.
pretty decent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walk me through, not like a role play, although we can if you want. I don't know enough. I don't know what I don't know. Walk me through, someone approaches you, they have a deal, they want to do business with you. What are your non-negotiables? How do you have that conversation? Is it just frank? Like you're just having those, you just put it out there?
Dude, I'm super straightforward.
Yeah. Like what, okay. So let's role play it. I see a property, you know, it's a fix and flip. My credit score is kind of shitty, but it's a deal. And, I have connections, with the money, where we can get a loan and all that. I kind of know that. Would you want to go into business with me here?
What do you want me to do?
I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. I just know that you are really smart and this is your world, and just kind of direct me on what to do.
Yeah. If you have,
And if you want to have a cut of whatever, like, we can talk about that.
sure. If you have the connections for the money and you have the deal ready in front of you, buy it and you take full ownership of it. If along the way you want me to look at your budget and see if it makes sense, you want me to introduce you to certain contractors, I'm happy to do that. And I would hope that at the end of this, if I help you succeed in flipping this property, when a sign goes in the front yard, it has my pretty face on it.
Okay, to sell it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So in that type of situation, I wouldn't necessarily want to get involved in doing it. I'll guide you as best I can, just as a.
And do you get that approach?
Yeah.
Okay, so your kind of ask is, when it comes to selling it, like, I want to be the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's very fair.
that's all I ask of most of the people, especially at the meetup groups. Like I'll introduce you to wholesalers. I'll answer whatever questions you have, and the hope is that I earn your trust to where when you're going to hire someone who does what I do, it's me doing it.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, it's not always the case. But like we said, most of the people in there are transactional.
From your marketing perspective and what you know as a social networker, um, what motivates people to use Derek the Deal Smith as their agent?
I get shit done. Like if something needs doing, it gets done. A lot of agents, like, it's not always just when they're part time. Sometimes they're full time, and they're just so caught up in their ego of like, dude, I'm not a contractor. I'm not gonna do that. So the one of the listings I have right now, I go on the listing appointment, and there's a deck in the backyard, and the guy's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna remove it, or like, he has all these ideas, and he's like, I at least have to level it. And then there's this patio furniture that's all dilapidated. And they're like, and what about this? We have nowhere to take it. And I was like, okay, dude, if you level it, I'll send out one of the guys that's working on my flip right now tomorrow, and I'll have him paint the patio furniture, and then the next day I'll have the photographer out here, and they sign the listing agreement on the spot. Because
Hmm.
and I think they probably would have signed with me anyways. But it's like, this is what we're worried about. Like
You're like, fuck that.
the
Let's.
the color of this patio furniture. Like, this is what's going to stop us from moving forward right now.
Uh huh.
I'll take care of it tomorrow.
Got it.
It's done. And there was
That's like the reverse petty. What do you call that?
excuses
No,
or
I mean from like
procrastination.
yeah, from what like from your perspective, you're like we're not gonna let that
Oh,
get
gotcha.
in the way. Like that's you could have been petty about that and
Yeah,
entertained him and been like, yeah, I don't know,
yeah. I'll get a bid from a contractor to spray paint some fucking metal
right? What do
furniture.
you, what do
No,
you,
dude,
what
go
do you
buy a
call
can
that?
of spray paint, get it
J-
done.
Getting it done.
Yeah, and I think that's what really separates me. And that's one example of, like, physically getting something done, but
Hmm.
like behind the scenes, the stuff that agents deal with. There's been stuff that comes up that agents would throw in the towel or just try to move up the chain, and I'm like, nah, dude, I'm fucking call. I got attorney buddies that can help me sort stuff out. Whatever needs to happen, I'm, I'm gonna make sure it happens.
What is the chain? You mentioned moving up the chain. What is that?
So, um, like, if you're just an agent and you're at one of these big box brokerages and you run into a situation that isn't your job, right? Because a lot of realtors see their job as, they put their sign in the yard, they answer calls, they hold an open house, they
The bare minimum.
sign yeah, the bare minimum. Um, they they would either ask their supervisor or their broker, or someone in their network to chime in to help solve the situation, or they won't,
Mm.
or they'll just tell the seller, like, I think a lot of agents on that thing would have been like, oh yeah, do whatever you want with the deck and let me know when you're done,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And I'm like, no, if this is what's stopping with us, I'm handling it tomorrow, and we're getting this done.
You go the extra mile.
Yeah, I do.
So bring me to. You've done 10 flips. What
It's
year
a
is
round
this
number.
now? Oh man, 10 or more. And by now you have a development. Um, Walk me through, like, are you still with TRE?
No, I launched my own brokerage.
Okay. So guess who I saw, I went to go get coffee this morning to get amped up for this. And I saw John Michael. I saw the back of his head, and I love you, John. I saw the back of your ears, and I was like, this is John Michael. So I park. I was in the drive-through, and then I go inside, and I'm like, hey man, guess what? I'm gonna have a podcast with Derek today. What should I ask him? And he wanted me to ask you. You started your own what?
My own
Your
brokerage.
own
Hmm.
brokerage. 5 years from now, what are the qualifications where you would call what you did a success? 5 years from now, how do you know it's successful? That's what he wanted me to ask you.
That's a good question. Um, I think that it's already successful in my eyes, because the biggest reason why I decided to go completely independent, because don't get me wrong, there are great reasons to go with one of the big boxes, right? Like, he chose EXP, there's Real, there's LPT, KW. There's a ton of these where like you franchise, and it used to be one of their selling points is, oh, you get to use our brand. You get to extend our brand recognition onto yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly what I'm trying to avoid.
Tell me why.
Okay. When I was with TRE, there's a lot of agents, right? Over 100 agents. I don't know, maybe they're pushing 200 now. Most of the agents are good, right? Naturally, when you have 200 people doing things mostly unsupervised, not all of them are, right? And if you make a call to somebody who has had an experience with one of those not so good impression makers, and you say who you're with, from most people's perspective, that's an extension of you.
Mm-hmm.
EXP has thousands, if not, they're probably pushing, 5, 6 figures of agents.
Mm-hmm.
The chances of somebody in the general public having an impression of a certain EXP or KW or TRE agent is pretty high. And granted, most of the time it's a good impression, but nevertheless, it's not my impression.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when I would meet someone and say, "Oh yeah, I'm a real estate agent," they say, "Who are you with?"
Mm-hmm.
And I would say Terry, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know so and so. Yeah, tell them I said what's up." Or, "Oh, I worked with them
Mm-hmm.
on this," and I'm like, "What the fuck does that have to do with me?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's no offense to anybody, but just the type of guy I am. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, let me make my own impression.
Mm.
And you literally can't, even if it's subconscious.
Let me ask you a question. On this note, are you? I do this. I have a good thing going, and then for some reason I put the video game on hard for the challenge. Maybe I'm bored or something. You know where I'm going with
I
this.
do, and the answer is yes,
So,
absolutely.
were things going pretty well, and you're like, how can I make this more difficult?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah. I mean, I don't know if I have to explain to you because you get it.
Uh
Like,
huh.
I love the
The
challenge.
challenge.
Um, I I think that people are given their abilities and their opportunities because they deserve them, because they want them. Like, it was more abstract earlier, but like we're put on this earth and we're given our certain personality and body, um, because we're able to use it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the fact that it irked me to share a reputation with people, even if it's a good reputation, just the fact that it, like, that means something. That means that I'm not supposed to do that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
supposed to make my own name. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to make my own waves out here. And I want to empower other agents to be able to truly stand out as, the group that it doesn't matter what situation you're in, we're gonna get some shit done for you. Right? If you come in and you're a prospective investor and we have a sit down with you and it doesn't make sense to pursue a certain type of investment, if we're only that type of investment firm, like, we have tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what Deal Smith is about. It's about making the deal work for who the deal's happening for.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I've had conversations with folks that they're like, "Oh yeah, I really want to pursue, tax liens or tax deeds," and then we really talk through like what their expectations are, what their goals are, what they envision their life looking like, and it's like, dude, that's not the right fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
The easy answer and what most agents would say is like, okay, sure, yeah, sign this buyer representation agreement and I'll go find you some,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I believe in really catering a solution to the specific problem as well as the problem holder,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like, if you're the more common one is, oh yeah, I've always wanted to flip a house. They have a W-2 and a family of 5. And it's like, dude, no,
Mm-hmm.
don't do it. Um,
That's good.
unless you
Someone needs to say that.
yeah, unless you hire it all out, or I had a friend that's like, dude, I want to buy a rental property so I can quit my job. I was like, that's the dumbest shit you've ever said to me. He's an old
It
friend.
is what it
I
is.
can say it to
Mm-hmm.
most people. I would word it differently,
And it
but
don't
it's
work
true.
that way.
Yeah, one rental property is not going to retire you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I mean, even 10, like unless they're fucking mansions or multifamily properties.
Right. But that's like winning the lottery.
Well, it's
Your
bigger
first 10
scale,
flips being mansions is like,
right?
come on now.
Yeah. So it's
Set your expectations properly.
yeah. So
Where did you get the balls to start your own, the words, man,
yeah,
the brokerage?
yeah. I a blessing and curse was born with these monster cojones.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had the audacity. Sometimes it's for better, sometimes it's for worse. But one thing I've always had is the audacity to do something that everyone else can tell you isn't a good idea or isn't what they would do. I don't give a fuck what you would do because
What?
I don't want your life.
I forget. They're brothers, right? The Teifke guys.
No, they're friends.
Okay, so
Or
there's
friends.
Matt Teifke,
Sure.
the big guy,
Yeah.
and then who's the other dude?
Alex
Alex.
hmm
What's his last name?
Kaufman.
Kaufman. I knew it was with a C. Those guys are partners.
Right.
What'd they say about this?
Matt's super supportive. Alex, he helped with the transition, wished me the best of luck.
Does this happen to them often, where people are like, "I'm gonna do my own thing"?
There's a lot of turnover. I think most people don't do their own thing though. The vast majority of people will just switch to another,
Line of business,
no, a different brokerage.
a different brokerage.
They'll go join John Michael.
Okay, and so tell me about John. Like, what does he got going on? He's got his own thing, or I think you said he was part of EXP.
He's with EXP.
But
And-
there's like splinter cells inside these organizations, right?
Yeah, because
The wolf pack.
thousands and thousands of agents. So yeah, they have different downlines and
Clicks.
franchise and
Clicks,
sections.
essentially.
Well, it's set up in a way where they. Oh man, he's gonna hate me for saying this. It's set up very pyramid like.
Okay.
Like if you bring people in, you get a little piece of what they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And if they bring people in, you get a piece of those too.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very highly motivated to recruit.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think what John has going on is amazing. I think he's a hell of an agent, a hell of a spokesperson for his group.
So now there's going to be people that work under you,
Yeah,
and now they're going to say, "I'm a part of Dealsmith."
they would.
And so eventually they're going to get their first impression of what that means.
hmm
What does that brand look like? What is the vision for it? What do you want people to associate with that name?
I want it to be when we meet a potential client that we truly analyze their situation and make the best deal happen for them. So we're creating the deal for the person that we're creating it for, like a
It's
custom
tailor-made.
deal. Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. That's the goal of the impression. Now, can I fully decide how people see me? No. I'm sure a lot of people are going to hate on me just for what I said 5 minutes ago there. But yeah, for my personal motivation for going completely independent is I just don't want anyone else's impressions on me. Because like I said, even like John's making great impressions on behalf of EXP to a lot of people. And maybe some people, a lot of the public doesn't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I do. I want to make my own impression, whether it's better than theirs or worse. Subjectively, that part's less important to me.
When did you start this?
What's it, January? I guess it's been about a month.
Oh, so it's brand spanking new.
Yeah.
And how do you feel?
Good. So again, to me, it's a win because I'm not asking anyone for permission.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not using anyone else's name. I'm not piggybacking off of anyone else's reputation, whether it's for better or for worse. I am truly in complete control of my impression, my brand, my life, and that's what's important to me.
How do you scale this?
I don't know how big I want to scale it.
Yeah, eventually you want to get to a place where it's a nice cruising altitude and you stay there, I'd imagine.
Well, one thing about me, and I think a lot of high achievers have this in common. I don't know if I'll ever be satisfied.
Mm.
Right? Like I actively try to be grateful for things, and I am grateful. I'm never satisfied. Like with the Austin investment meetup last night, it was a great turnout, and people are hyping me up. Oh man, yeah, these things are getting huge. And I'm like, yeah, they'll get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, dude, like you're good. You did good. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm not trying to seem ungrateful or
Of
like
course.
I don't see the progress, but I think most high achievers have this in common. Like you can be grateful and still want to do more.
Mm-hmm.
And like satisfaction
Mm-hmm.
is a word that I I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if I want to know it. I'm cool with constantly chasing more. And I am grateful for the steps along the way though.
What's the goal for 2025? Like, what's the vision? What's the roadmap? Paint it for me.
So hopefully finish out with this development. Uh, we're
How much more time do you need?
Do I need none?
None.
Does
Okay.
the
For the deal to. So you're
does
just
the
waiting.
architect need and
Oh yeah.
the city and the GC? Yeah, we're gonna try to make it happen this year.
Fuck yeah.
But it's possible that architect runs into issues with the city or the city delays shit. There's somebody who built something very similar um, in the area, and I talked with the broker there, and the broker says that the city delayed their permits
Mm.
by almost a year just to
Ugh.
get the permits.
Ugh.
So yeah, I'm shooting for this year, but some stuff is out of my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the goal is, as soon as that's done, turn it into a comprehensive case study where I can use this to um, assist more investors, provide value to more investors. If I can say, hey, I took this amount of money, we made this kind of return, here's the process that we used, here's what I learned, here's how the next process is going to be, here's the agreements that we need in place.
Create SOPs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And recreate what I did there as many times and places as possible.
Mm.
So I want to start on at least one more development by the end of the year.
Mm.
Um, I thought that I would have like a goal of number of agents,
Mm-hmm.
but the truth is, at this very moment in time, I'm not very motivated to get, and there I am relying on motivation again, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can know better and do worse. I, but I don't, I don't feel like my main priority right now should be getting more agents. If the right ones come along and want to work with me and it makes sense, by all means we can. But my goal is more to create the strategic partnerships to be able to really empower my agents to truly offer something special. So, like putting the funds and businesses and systems in place to where when somebody comes on, it is very clear what you can do, how you can do it, what exactly to do when you're going through it, when to submit what, where. So it's setting up systems. And I think maybe that's what folks that go with the bigger box brokerages are most confused about. It's like, why would you want to do all that
Mm-hmm.
when one of these places already has it set up?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's me putting the game on hard, but also because it's not my process. Like I don't want to piggyback off of what someone else has built and then give them X percentage over the course of my career. I would rather make a little bit less in the beginning, right? Like when I got out of college and passed up on
I
the
was
high
gonna
paying
bring
job.
that up. You're very consistent with that.
Yeah, see, like
Mm-hmm.
honestly, my single decisions may not make sense, but when you look over the course, like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I am who I am, and I love myself
I love that. Yeah.
most of the time.
What are your macro vision for your brokerage? Like, how do you know? It's kind of like what John Michael asked. Like, how do you know when it's? I know it's already successful in your eyes, but how do you know when people are they understand the vision, the SOPs are there, they come in and they have this culture that they can work with and all that. Like, how did you create? Where does your creativity come from, and how do you apply it?
Yeah, it comes from, I mean, that same type of mindset of when I was getting into that first project, and it's like I was able to pivot, and that just comes from internal, but that wasn't like taught to me to be able to pivot like that and
Hmm.
really capitalize on every opportunity or monetize every lead. So I want to create a system where somebody who maybe doesn't have the same natural instincts to do all that is still able to do it because I have it lined up for them and show them exactly what to do, when, and how. So I would say that the time that I would call it a success would be when somebody joins and the first time that we interact, besides just welcoming them, is them telling me, hey, I went through the trainings, I ran into this situation, looked into the knowledge base that you have available, and figured out the answer, and I made it to the finish line on a deal that I wouldn't have been able to close at my previous brokerage. And that's my first real interaction with them, is them just thanking me for putting it in place. That's when I'll call it a success.
Yeah, that's validating right there.
Yeah. And I'm sure the answer he was looking for is like a numbers thing, right?
Sure.
Because and it's a valid argument that I'd probably make more if I just went somewhere that has it all set up. I don't care about that.
Really though.
No.
So I've had this realization recently. I am an artist. I I'm not as money hungry as maybe I should be, as maybe my family deserves me to be, because they don't give a fuck what I do. Like my kids, they don't care if it comes from um, Uber. Not that I drive cars, but like they don't care if it comes from that or if it comes from making fancy YouTube videos. They don't give a shit, right? So I want to be more money motivated. That's kind of one of my goals, even though it has bad connotations. I don't care, but like, I've gotten this far. I've gotten this far. So it's like, how far can I go and what can I give my family if I was a little more money motivated? So that's my goal.
Sure.
Are you, is your approach antithetical to money motivation?
No, I mean, dude,
Can you still make your fortune with the way you want?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not that like if I was broke and it was an option of, and I wasn't a broker and it was like my options are EXP or KW, I'd take EXP over KW any day. But those aren't my options, right?
You have some leverage.
I have another option of doing my own independent thing and not relying on anybody else or what they have set up or what impressions they've made. I can create my own. And if I was in a position where like I didn't have everything already going for myself and I needed to join somewhere that has some momentum, then I might have made a different decision.
Sure.
But the truth is, I have a flip underway. I have several listings, tons of buyer leads. That, I mean, it's just tough right now. But I'm working them. Right, there's going to be more transactions happening. I'm more than comfortable with the amount of money that is coming in.
Okay.
If I was broke or struggling, then sure, I probably wouldn't be investing my time, money, effort into starting something from scratch. But I'm looking at it as the exponential growth potential again. Like I'm down to not, make a killing right now off of having the brokerage. Because like had I joined EXP, I could start recruiting immediately and everything's there for them. I'd make a smaller cut off of each of them. They're not there specifically to work with me and my systems. They're there for whatever reason they may be there. But I would rather set things up the way that I see the vision, because capitalism is supposed to be you get paid based on how many people you help, right? And it's been manipulated in some facets to where there's shortcuts, there's cheat codes, there's ways around it to where now you can make more just by putting yourself in the right position at the right time. And to some people that's motivating. But to me, I would rather make a true impact on the industry, on my agents, on all the clients that we touch. And the way for me to do that is to create something different, right? Because those big boxes, They have their way of doing things, and the things that you're allowed to do, that you're not allowed to do. Um, Fuck all that. I I want I want to be able to help people, and I don't want anyone to tell me that I'm not allowed to help them in that fashion, except for Trek. Trek, if you're watching this, I'm still following all the laws, I promise.
Of course.
But
Was there a moment where you're like, I want to do my own thing? I can't do. I'm tired of making other people rich.
I think one to be fair, like they provide enough value to where the amount that I was contributing makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I would just felt like I was paying them for nothing.
Sure.
Um, but I think deep down, I was always bound to do my own thing.
I think so too. I mean, having heard your whole story, it's been the consistent through line. You like to play the game on hard. You like to have ownership and autonomy and own the thing, have what we call in my work creative control
Yeah.
over the thing, especially after getting burned on that deal. You saw that you betrayed your own ideals, you sacrificed your own non-negotiable, and it fucked you.
Yeah.
And you're never going to make that mistake again. So all this, I've seen the line.
Yeah.
You know, they say success looks like that, and it does. But I see this from this conversation, and so it's on brand to start your own thing.
Yeah.
It makes total sense to me.
Dude, it's crazy to hear you put it into words, but that's exactly what it is. I have my ideals, I have who I am, and the one time I betrayed it, it bit me in the ass.
It always does.
Yeah.
That's one of my commandments: is do not betray your own ideals.
Mm.
Yeah, it always fucks you over.
Yeah, that one hit me hard. Thanks, buddy.
That's why we're here.
Which
Yeah, let's get into that.
I think
It's one of your crowning achievements, the meetup.
Yeah.
What was the first one? Like, how did you have the ball? Because I want to do a meetup, but I'm a pussy about it. I'm like, what if no one shows? And like, what if people do show? How do I entertain them? Like, I'm overthinking it.
Yeah.
So walk me through that. I'd love to talk about that.
So there's a Facebook group called Austin Social Scene, and the abbreviation is ASS. So it's not like a professional group by any means. But a guy goes in there, Dwayne, he goes in there and he asks a question. Hey, if I were to put on a group teaching people about different ways to invest, who would come? And it blows up. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, for sure. That's me.
Mm-hmm.
They're full of shit because 8 people showed up,
Ah.
right? And he invited me to be the first speaker.
Mm.
And, there's 8 people there. I'm like, guys, I'm not going to stand above you and speak to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's all sit at a table and speak together. And I'm happy to walk through my experience. And then we tried doing it, the original plan of like somebody comes in and preaches about whatever investment opportunity they have to offer. And it was, like we were, 8, 10 people each time. And then it kind of fell off. And then he's like, dude, there was a lot of potential there. You're a good fit for this. I kind of want to give you the reins on it if you'll come back. And so I did, and he just slowly started phasing himself out. Honestly, I think I sold his house for him. I think he moved.
That has a happy ending, and it's also a beginning.
I ended up, selling a house out of it. And a few meets in, we're averaging maybe 10, 15 people.
What year is this?
It would be 3 years ago, so 2021.
Okay. Well, that's 4 years ago, buddy.
Yeah, fuck. Okay.
2022,
2022, there we go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I just put out a poll and was like, do y'all want speakers or do you just want to do open networking? And overwhelmingly, people just want to network. Because also when it comes to meetups, the people who you really want in the room, if you want there to be value in the room and not just, a way for you to build leads, if you want real value in the room, you're not going to teach them some elementary shit. Like if you throw house flipping 101, you think a lot of house flippers are going to show up? No, they already know all that stuff. And they don't want to hear it from me. They don't want to hear it from anybody.
Okay. So what approach did you take instead?
Instead, I tried to get the people who have done things or are doing things or who want to do things in a room, get them comfortable, get them introduced to whoever it is they're looking for, and just let it happen, right? Just open networking. And like at all the events, I'll round them up real quick just to introduce the sponsors, let them, give their little spiel, and then I release them. I release everyone back to networking.
Yeah. I like that format. It's good.
It is, and for a lot of people, and for years, um, I say years. I guess technically it was. People would be like, "Why are you doing this? Like, what do you get out of it?" And for a while, I didn't have an answer.
Mm.
Like, sure, a deal or two would trickle in from it, um, but I didn't really have an answer. And now it is crystal clear. It's because I can.
Mm.
Because this body persona combo that I was given um, has the ability to bring people together.
Mm.
And it would be a sin to not utilize that.
I'm gonna start my fucking first meetup. I'm gonna put it out there today.
Yeah.
I am, because I have the same avatar. You know, it's like that's what I'm put on Earth to do, is bring fucking
Yeah.
like-minded geniuses together, and
Is it
then the
gonna be
rest
for
is out of my
creatives?
control. Yeah, for sure.
I like it.
You know, there's an overlap between like content creators and filmmakers, and I think a lot of us, like, we just want to pay our bills with what I call art money, and let's just come together and figure out how to do that. You
Yeah.
know, how to sustain that, how to grow, and a lot of it is it's just human based. You know, it's show business, but it's the people business. Like, that's how things get done. I need a producer, I need an editor, I need a filmographer or videographer, or I need a DP, which is called a director of photography. And
I like how you
just
smiled when you
for
said
those
that.
that don't know. And yeah, and it's just like, I moved to Austin. Where the fuck is everybody has been like my motto. I've been here for 12, 13 years. Where the fuck is everybody? Where are these my new crew? Like, I left my hometown and I came over here and I sacrificed all my friends, and here I stand on top of their corpses and their skulls. But it's like, where the fuck are the new, where's the new crew? And I kind of feel like if it's not there, I need to build it.
Yeah.
And if I have the faculties to do so, it's a sin to not do so.
Yeah.
And so, how many have you done? Like 100 or more?
It's been 3 years doing a monthly.
So
I think
call
we
it
missed 1 or 2 on the first year,
mm,
but yeah, 30 plus.
30 plus.
Mhm.
What have you learned from it? Give me some jewels.
Those times where we missed one, we lost half of the group.
Ah,
Consistency is key.
and people want that, eh?
Yeah, and bring the value that people want, not what you want to bring. So like in an ideal world, and this is what the folks who try to, they ask you a question with hopes that you'll realize that they were right and you'll go bring them their money.
Example.
Um, I'm about to give you one. Uh, the People are gonna know I'm calling them out if I say these things. Okay, when people would ask me why are you doing these meetups, the overarching theme or what they were trying to get at is sell them something. Like you're getting them all in a room, sell them something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what if they don't all need the same thing? Like, don't you want money? The money will come. My idea is to provide value. And sometimes the value is just putting them in that room because there's someone else there that has what they need. I don't need it all. And it's shown that it actually does pay off to be authentic, because over time this thing's grown. I think we had 80 to 100 people in and out last night.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, from the first one being 8 people.
Yeah.
Huge growth, and so much farther to go. But I think when people ask stuff, sometimes they're like trying to make me have an aha moment. Like, oh yeah, I've been stupid my whole life, and I've just been waiting for you to ask me that so I can be as smart as you.
Mm.
But it's not the case. So consistency is key. Bring the value that the people there need, and it'll eventually come back to you the way that it's supposed to. Don't just try to force something on them while they're there. And I guess it could be both. Like for you, if you have because you have like a course about helping content creators.
It is very 101 though. And,
Okay.
and you triggered me when you were like, you get these guys, real estate 101, who the fuck's you got me there. I was like, there's something to that. Like,
Yeah.
I want to approach kind of a more sophisticated entrepreneur, creative,
Yeah.
and so there's something to that.
Well, and that there's a balance. So like while you're there, provide the value that you think the majority of them would need, and a lot of times it's you getting out of the way a little bit. But But you can always follow up with the list
Mm-hmm.
of people. Thank you so much for coming. Hey, if this interests you, this is here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just drop a link, as opposed to being on stage and selling it for 30 minutes.
You're right.
Huge difference.
You're right.
So like with the meetup groups, I don't convince anyone to work with me. Some people insist once they see, what I've created there. But I do plan to take the list of people who signed up and say, hey, thanks for coming. Here's some photos. See if you can find yourself in them.
Sure.
Here's the invite to the next one. Hey, by the way, if you're interested in any real estate services, here's a link to the website.
Right.
Right? Like,
It's very fair.
yeah, I'm not saying
You're
hey,
you're sponsoring the event.
Are you here to buy a house? You should buy this. I have this listing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm on stage telling everyone, yeah, I have this listing. It would be a great investment.
Nobody would ever
Give
show
me
up
my
ever again.
3%. Never,
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
And I think that's where most people fuck up. They either get selfish, and they try to make it about themselves. And they try to sell too much, or they don't put themselves in the shoes of their ideal attendee,
Mm-hmm.
or they're just not consistent.
What is your ideal attendee?
I mean, personally, the person that I would like to meet the most, and what has been coming into my life because I got to the position where I deserve it.
You earned it.
Right? It's not that I seeked it out or tried to sell to it. It was I became the person that ideal person is looking for. But it's somebody who has money and would like to invest it into real estate and needs someone to honestly guide them to make the best decision for them. And that is so rare because most people, you say, I want to invest this amount, they'll just try to sell you something at that amount.
Mm-hmm.
Or sell you one of their listings, which I think is despicable.
Diabolical.
Yeah. So I think I've earned the recognition as somebody that if you have a certain amount of money, I will sit down with you and see what makes the most sense. And if that means I send you somewhere else, so be it. I'm not going to sell you something that isn't a fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather either tell you what could be, or, if these things change, maybe this will work, and let land what may, than to try to force some commission out of a situation that isn't meant to be.
Well said. What advice do you have for me to create a meetup and be consistent? And, what if it's the same 8 people for 12 months? What do I do? That's kind of like what I'm afraid of in a way.
Yeah. I would probably just change where you're marketing to.
Okay.
So like if you're getting the same 8 people and they're the only people who are experienced enough to be kind of the ideal people you'd want in that room, but you've tapped that market, which I don't think is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either, now that I think about it.
But I would say just, start marketing to folks that are just coming into the game, like maybe film classes at the university, or see who's signing up for what and market to those groups. But I don't think you're going to run into that. I think you be authentic, create a place where there's value for them, where they can truly interact without feel like they're being sold something, and just stay consistent, keep it in the public's eye, and it'll grow.
I love that. So I have a different audience based in probably what you're used to, but I think they're going to get a lot out of this. And I want to implore people, if you're a homeowner and you're interested in selling that property, or if there's a deal that and you don't have to be in Austin to work with you, right?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I do focus in Central Texas, but if they're really anywhere, like the connections I've made, especially through the meetups,
yeah,
they span far, dude.
So now is the time. I want you to take as long as you want to kind of sell yourself and direct people where they can check you out, learn from you, grow with you, help you out, support the cause. Like, yeah, now's the time.
Right on. Instagram and TikTok at Derek the Deal Smith, DEREK. On YouTube, just search Derek the Deal Smith.
This podcast is going to be the thing that pops up.
Yeah,
with your name from now on.
Nice.
I promise you that.
I hope so.
It will.
Yeah. Hopefully you edit out a couple times where
Whatever
maybe
you
I
want.
offended somebody.
You got to shake the tree sometimes.
Yeah, I do. It's just sometimes that tree will keep sending poison ivy up your ankle for the next couple of years until you realize what's making you itch.
Yeah.
Um, and then dealsmithrealty.com if you want to look at properties or see what your property's worth, instant valuation there. I do still manage short to midterm rentals at www.diamondvacation.rentals is where you can look into that.
If I want to go to a meetup, how do I find out about it?
If you find me on Instagram, I collaborate with the Austin Investment Meetup page, and honestly, I'm trying to get better about this. I personally post more about the meetups than the Austin Investment Meetup page does.
Mhm.
So if you follow me, you'll see all the details, and there's a link in that Instagram page for you to sign up for future invites. Austin Investment Meetups, it's open networking. Nothing's being sold. Everything's being offered. Whatever value I can give you, it's going to come through a simple handshake there. I also just became the marketing director for the Austin chapter of NAREP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. We're going to have an educational event every month. Those are a little more catered to empowering the community. And so those will be, someone on stage actually speaking about something. The first one's going to be about how to fix your credit and leverage that to get some unsecured capital and what you can do with that. That one is going to be February 12th. Almost positive. Yeah, February 12th. Follow me to confirm all these things. But February 12th at Cabana Club. I think we're starting at 6:30. No, that doesn't sound right. Follow me.
Follow Derek
Yeah,
Deal
it's
Smith.
definitely at Cabana Club on February 12th, but I don't remember exactly what time it starts. So we're going to do those monthly, and then quarterly with NAREP. We're also going to do one that's more about the organization and how people can get involved in helping the Hispanic community.
How do you feel?
Good.
Did you like this?
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me. It's
Fuck yeah,
been
dude.
a pleasure.
Dude, it's been an honor. Thank you for coming to the crib. You're in Round Rock, right?
Yeah.
So you made the trip, and I really appreciate that. Hopefully we do another one, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, man.